Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin wallet, blockchain, stablecoins, MetaNet, the evolution of money. Everybody is talking about Bitcoin today, but what exactly is it? Learn the basics from experts. Learn what Bitcoin is, how it works, and why it matters. Bitcoin 101, your ultimate guide to the fundamentals of blockchain.
Welcome back to the show. Today we got Brett Banfe joining us. Hey, Brett, how you doing today?
I'm very good. How are you? Thanks for having me on the show.
I'm doing well. Sorry, I don't do the best introductions for people. I know I did an interview with Rory Zimmerman, and she just does the best intros for people. I need to up my game on that a little bit. But yeah, you've been all over the place lately, Brett. It's crazy. I see your name popping up everywhere, and it's definitely a good thing. But yeah. I know I also got to meet you personally at the Bitcade in Miami, and we got to hang out for that weekend. That was really fun. So I guess we'll get started with how have you been since we actually got to meet?
Well, it was such a pleasure to meet you, and that was an amazing event. It was really cool to kind of have, all of our personal heroes all around us in one space, and yeah, I've been really good. I have since transitioned away from where I was originally working, which is Fabric, and
Right.
and now, yeah, I'm taking on the role of community manager at the Bitcoin Association, as well as doing sales for Handcash. And yeah, I couldn't be happier. A little bit about my journey into BSV is that prior to the pandemic, I was working for a nonprofit. I was bartending, and I was doing contracting work. So I really had, I have two kids, and I had almost no time. I'm sure, you can relate as we've discussed before, the joys of parenthood. That I just really was working very hard to provide a meaningful life to my family. But one of the downsides of that is I just don't get to see them as much as I would like, because running the rat race, only a rat can win the rat race, they say. So yeah, by being able to transition out of those roles into kind of what I'm doing now with BSV, it's such a godsend. I'm always an optimistic and thankful person, but especially for the time that I get to extend to my family that I otherwise wasn't able to, it's truly a blessing.
So now that you're working with Handcash and helping out at the Bitcoin Association, do you have more time to spend time with your children and everything? Is it affording you that a little bit?
Yeah, I do. And some really powerful and amazing things have happened as a result of that. So, it feels like it's ancient history, but, the pandemic was really only, not that long ago.
Right.
And we were all really locked up inside our homes for a really long time. And we made the decision at one point, I think it was last year, late last year, as a family, that we were going to every Thursday go out for pizza, and and we're not ordering in, we're going out. We're tired of being in, and so we started this little tradition with the family where we called it Pizza Thursday, and we'd go to this really fun place down the street from us. But one of the things that came out of a result of that was, when we were done pizza, we would say, well, let's go out for ice cream Thursday. So we'd sort of tack it on. And it turned out that actually got some business deals and business negotiations and agreements out of this Thursday commitment that we were making. So, because at the ice cream place that we were going to, we found this amazing artist, and the artist was looking to do some NFTs, and they ended up doing NFTs on BSV. We talked talked to him about what BSV is capable of, and he got it right away. He was like, this is genius, this is brilliant, this is what the future is. So shout out to Kevin Esslinger. And he ended up being like someone who, I mean, this guy has licensing agreements with Star Wars. He worked for McFarlane Toys for a little while. He was the creative director for a company called Master Replicas. And so so I ended up it's one of those things where I think when your heart's in the right place, when you're doing what you love to do, good things follow. And so I think that's a testament to that.
That's really interesting, and it's actually really exciting because typically speaking, when you start talking to people that have a basic understanding of like the general crypto space, right, and then you start explaining all of the capabilities that BSV has and what it's what it's capable of. I love seeing the like aha moment, the light bulb kind of go off and in their face, and then be like, wow, this really makes sense. And so onboarding can kind of be easy in that sense for people that have like a limited but basic understanding of what's going on in the space. But for those people that are just kind of like hearing about cryptocurrencies from like their extended family members or whatnot, telling them that, oh, they should buy Dogecoin or something like that, it can be very difficult to get them onboarded in that process. And so what were some tips or tricks that helped you kind of not only help get this individual onto BSV, but onboarding other individuals onto BSV or Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's almost like the marketing strategies for things that are bad for you, like for example, candy and ice cream and all of this stuff, right? Like, they have the best marketing strategies, right? So like, it's almost like let's try to take the marketing strategies for like, soda and apply them to like, vegetables and things that are actually good for you, right? Like, so we were joking about that a little bit the other day. Just to me, like the approach that I have is something that I kind of have learned from my father, and it's just to have the customer's best interest at heart and in mind. So what I try to approach them with, okay, what is your problem? And if BSV is a solution for that, great, let's discuss that, let's delve into that. But if it's not, I don't want to try to force anything or push
Absolutely.
anything on you,
Right.
and really, like, it's really just having the other person's best interests at heart. And you can tell just by listening to me, I am massively passionate about BSV, what's possible, what's capable. And I love talking to people that want to explore that and want to build the infrastructure for the next era of our of our society. But at the same time, if someone needs a solution that doesn't really involve BSV, I'm not going to turn away from them. I want to hear what that person needs and approach from a solutions perspective. And doing that, I think, allows us to explore the possibilities of BSV at the moment that it's right to do so.
Right. Well, I know, and yeah, that sounds great. And I think that that is a good way to approach things. But I know, like, sometimes I'll go to people and they'll be like, "Wow, that sounds like a great idea. So where do I get started? How do I who should I get in touch with?" And I'll immediately be thinking, "Oh, okay, well, this guy wants to do something gaming, so I need to maybe get him in touch with X, Y, or Z." But there's always that like like kind of missing some developers or the space, or the developers that we have are always so busy because they've got a lot of stuff going on and this, that, and the other thing. So I'm curious, like, I know a ton of people in the space. When somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I got this really great idea and I think BSV could be the solution that I need," what do you do from there? Like, what are the next steps that you take to help get this person the help that they need?
Yeah. So, it just depends on what they're looking for. So as part of the role that I have with Hand Cash, the first people that I would turn to is Handcash. The reason why is because Handcash has built the SDK
Mhm.
that provides the ability for traffic to be funneled through a professional wallet payment infrastructure, and their developers can just build the front end, right, and say, okay, well, I know for a fact that payments are not going to be the issue that derails my app.
Mm.
I have other problems. I have to get it out in front of people, and Handcash is great for that. They have the app gallery. I need to actually design from top to bottom what the app looks like, how it builds engagement and stuff. But when it comes to the actual infrastructure that supports that, I know that I have that covered, and it actually, we all know that Handcash works great just from a user experience, but
Mhm.
I'm not a developer, so I don't, I imagine it works really seamlessly from a developer perspective prior to joining, but I didn't have firsthand experience. But it's actually only 5 lines of code that can take your app from being just a regular app. Let's say that you are a game developer and you're building like a Candy Crush style game, and you just want to introduce some sort of micropayment aspect to what you're doing. You can take your app literally to a payment solution within only 5 lines of code. And what that means is that you can instead of building out this concept and hoping that monetization comes down the road, you can actually just start monetizing right away, and you can start building your customer base right away, and then you can draw on that feedback. So there's a big process of sort of the iterating on what the app is able to do and testing out your theories with an actual live customer base that is massively valuable for apps. And so, yeah, that's my go-to.
Right. And so I'm kind of wondering, so SDK, and I believe I had a conversation with Alex a good like about a year ago now. It's been about a year when I first had Alex on the show. Great guy. And he was explaining how easy SDK is to work with. So simple, in fact, that he said that he made the Pew Pew app, and he just like spun it up, and there it was. And he was like, I have very limited coding knowledge, and yet I was able to do this. And so, like, for some people like myself who may have an idea of how to, like, oh, I've got an idea, but I have no coding experience, and, this, that, or the other thing. And SDK might be the solution to help, monetize whatever it is that I'm trying to do right now. But for those people that don't actually have anything built up yet, would you say to somebody in this instance that, hey, you should go to a developer, have them build it up first, and then just have the SDK 5 lines of code added to the already developed game? Or would you send somebody to go get the game kind of developed by somebody in the space and then have SDK added in? Like, what would the process of that look like to you in the best case
Yeah.
scenario?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I think basically, if I can just summarize what I'm hearing from your question, is the question that I'm hearing is basically we have these great ideas of
Mhm.
like, oh wow, this is the innovation. This is going to be what takes the next step forward. But how do we turn that idea into a practical reality? And
Mhm.
what is the easiest steps and process for that? And luckily, I've just gotten, are you familiar with Asset Layer with Jack Lasky and Dave Mullen-Muir and part of the Unbounded
The Unbounded
Capital
Capital
team?
guys, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, so they were previously going under the name Nifty Jigs,
Mhm.
and Joshua Hensley just did a interview with Jack today about the transition to Asset Layer. So one of the things that's really valuable about their experience in the space is that they went ahead and they just built Duro dogs,
Mhm.
and again, they were talking about, we want interoperability to be the way that we is our hallmark.
Right.
We're defined as a organization by our interoperability. And it makes a lot of sense because, as Joshua Hensley once told me, you spend all this money and time inside one Pokemon game unlocking this secret character or something like that, and then the next Pokemon game comes out and you have to do it all over again, right? Because none of these assets interoperate with each other. But imagine if you had just a universal asset catalog, where basically when you unlock Pikachu in the one game, you get Pikachu in the other game, etc. And so that was what Asset Layer wanted to differentiate themselves within the market, and how they would define themselves. But again, it's for them, it's about similar to where you're coming from, which is, it's okay, we have this great idea, we think that interoperability is the next value proposition differentiating ourselves in the marketplace. But you can't just go into a boardroom and say, hey guys, we have this idea of interoperability, you really need to have some substance there. So they went ahead and they built out an entire platform, Duro Dogs, and then they also built out an entire platform, Rough Runner. So, and they allowed those assets between the two platforms to interoperate. And what they ended up learning from that was all of the things that they wished existed when they had the idea, and so they went ahead and they organized around this concept of Nifty Jigs, now being called Asset Layer. And they're soon to launch. It's in a beta, and we can walk through what that looks like maybe after the call or something like that, so we can actually put your ideas into practice. But essentially, Asset Layer has this concept, and again, you can go on to CoinGeek. There's an article right now talking about what they call their no-code tool. So the no-code tool for Asset Layer is exactly the thing that you're looking for, which is basically, I have this creative idea, I know what my value proposition is, how to differentiate myself in the marketplace, but I don't know, how do I make an NFT? How do I keep track of the NFTs? How do I build a customer base? How do I build a user base? How do I build the app itself, etc. And so Asset Layer really put the the wheels in motion to design and define all of those things that, again, they learned along the way when they said, hey, we have this idea, what were the tools that we wished were in place when we were starting, and they built all of that. So yeah, my go-to is definitely proceed with conversations with Jack Lasky, with Dave Mullen-Muir, and if you need to reach out to them, you can also contact me and I can put you in touch with them.
That's awesome. And I appreciate that you're like, actually, I feel like that's kind of like been your role in the space, is like, hey, I understand where you're coming from. Let me put you in touch with this person, and in that way, I feel like you've been an invaluable member of the BSV ecosystem, right? Even before, you were in Fabric or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I had
go ahead.
I just had a really quick funny story. So and I've told this story a couple times to some different people in the space, and it's sort of one of those things where now when people see me, they're like, hey Brett, come tell us that story, this guy hasn't heard it yet. So I'll share it with you. So my dad, I grew up with basically learning a lot about business from the kitchen table with my dad, and he used to give me a lot of information in these very these aphorisms. So he would do a lot of the early bird catches the worm, and you can't burn the candle at both ends. And he used to say things like the journey is halfway complete when you've taken the first step, and stuff like that, that he has learned along the way. And so my dad's story is really crazy. He was a cook, so he grew up in a very poor neighborhood, and he has a lot of stories about that. Having to his first job was when he was 8 or 9 years old. He was cleaning the urinals of his uncle's restaurant with bleach with bare hands. They didn't my dad was born in 1939, so they were not doing things necessarily the most practical way back then. But he just came up in a very hard upbringing. And he used to just describe himself as basically anyone that would pay him 25 cents more for doing something, he would go and work for them. It didn't matter what it was. If you would pay him a tiny bit more, he would go and work for you. And so at one point he was operating as, and he'd been in the army and all of this stuff. He was operating as a chef in like a lunch counter in the neighborhood that he grew up. And he saw this guy walk in, and the guy had a really nice watch on and was driving a really nice car. And he had been from the same neighborhood that my dad was from. So my dad was like, no, 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 I know where you come from, and I know that you don't come from wealth. So where'd you get this these fancy clothes, and where'd you get this nice watch, etc. And the guy said, well, I started selling fax machines and copy machines. And my dad said, okay, well, can you teach me how to do it? And the guy said, yeah. So he joined the company, and he was the junior salesperson, and immediately within like, a couple weeks just became the leading salesperson for the entire company. And so they eventually started to talk to him about potentially even training all their staff, and he was really good at that. He was excellent at identifying who was the best person to hire. And he used to tell me that you always hire in your self-image. So you hire someone who thinks like you, who speaks like you, etc. And so they talked to him about becoming a partner at the company, and they said, okay, well, we want you to hit this quota. It's $1 million in sales this quarter. If you can hit that, then we'll make you a partner. So he hit 6 million in sales. And he went into the meeting to get his partnership agreement, and actually, instead of giving him the partnership agreement, they actually let him go. And this is something that he told me, a lot of companies will do when you are very successful in hiring a staff that is extremely competent. Then at the end of the day, they'll just say, okay, well, you're the one that's making the most, so you're the one that we can get rid of. So they got rid of him. And he told me that at this time, all of his basically, everything was invested in the company. So his car was invested, was property of the company, et cetera. So he pretty much had to start basically exactly back at zero. And the only thing that they forgot that they'd given him was, and they took the car back, et cetera. The only thing they forgot that they gave him was this a plane ticket to Germany for the World Business Fair in like 1974 or something like that. And so he ended up flying there by himself with no representation, no company. He went to his neighbor across the street. He borrowed $1,000 from the neighbor, and he said, if you give me this $1,000 loan, I'll give you 50% of the company that I form based on what I encounter while I'm over in Germany. So he went over to Germany, and he, was walking around the booth. He was trying to elbow through, and they were revealing this new product that he said there were so many people standing around it, he couldn't get in to actually look at it. But it was the Apple computer. That was what was being debuted at that conference. So long story short is he ends up on the elevator, and he's leaving the conference in the event, and he's speaking with these two Japanese gentlemen. And they're telling him, we wanted to get into the event. We wanted to showcase our product, but we weren't able to submit in time. So our product's back at our hotel. Do you want to come take a look at it? He said, absolutely. So he went into the hotel. It turned out to be his hotel. And he went up to the floor to review the product. And he looked it over, and he said, you know what? I know this product like the back of my hand. We sell this product in the States. And unfortunately, this product just doesn't work, and they said, well, the reason why it doesn't work is because you're selling the standard, the US standard version of this product. And we build the metric version of this product, and the metric version works. So he said, okay, well, I'll give it a try. So he formed a partnership agreement with the company at that moment, and he became the first US distributor for Canon Global. And he eventually held the entire Eastern Seaboard for almost 2 decades or something like that. And at one point was the largest privately held business distribution company in the world. And what he was selling was, the transmission of data across an electronic communications line. Exactly what I'm selling, So I told him, it really runs in the family, and really everything that I've learned, I've really gotten it from my dad. But yeah, that is my role in the space, is sort of networking with people, learning what they're interested in. And I have one of those photographic memories. It's like a Rolodex. So if I meet someone that tells me, a decade ago that they are interested in, this, that, and the other, and I meet someone later on, I can connect those two, and that's what I enjoy doing.
That's awesome, Brett. That's one of the best stories that I've heard in a while. So your dad must be a very inspiring man, not just for you, but for everybody around him. I can only imagine getting to grow up under somebody's tutelage like that, and to hear the conversations that he was having, and to be to have somebody inspiring like that as a role model when you're that young,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, and he always used to think that, I mean, everyone was smarter than him. He used to tell me that, and he one time called me in. He had to speak and he had a lecture in front of a college class on marketing, and he had to lecture for them. So he was really nervous because everything that he knows is street smarts. It's not book smarts at all. So he went to the library and he got a marketing for dummies book, literally marketing for dummies. And he's reading it at the dinner table, and I'm in the other room. I'm like watching television or something. And he calls me in and he's like, Brett, you got to come in here. He was so excited. And he was on like chapter 1 or page 1 of marketing for dummies, and he was like, Brett, I understand this stuff. I know it already. And he was so blown away that he knew what was in marketing for dummies. And I was like, Dad, you were, the executive chairman of the board for like 36 companies. I'm not surprised that you understand marketing for dummies, but he's like, and he and I share a little bit of that, where we're sort of like the absent-minded professor, where we just, we understand what we understand, and we almost are sometimes oblivious to it.
That's really great. That's really honestly the best story that I've heard in a really long time. It actually reminds me a lot of gosh, what was his name? The original creator of Apple. He died. Forget his name, but he did a gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue too. But he did like a speech in front of like a college graduation class, and that was one of the most inspiring speeches that I had heard in a really long time. But that one actually is right there with it, man. I tell you what, I do love like humble beginning starts like that. But it also makes me think about, kind of some of the things going on in the space too. Because I know prior to that, that story we were talking about the asset layer and everything. And one of the things that BSV in the space has been missing for a while is that interoperability. So I'm really excited to hear that it's pushing along, it's moving forward. Now, with asset layer though, is there anything else that you could tell me about it right now about how interoperable it's going to be? Will it only be with SDK, or will it work behind the scenes for other projects and things that are already developed out?
Yeah, well, I'm really excited to do a showcase of this, a demo of it. And Asset Layer just brought on a brand new salesperson. His name is Nick, and if you recall, back in their early kind of formation as a company, they were working on a product called Hash Wars, I believe, which was like a trading card style game, and that was sort of the brainchild of Nick. So I'm excited to sort of announce more about what's coming forward with Asset Layer. But essentially, they're using the hand cash infrastructure. And again, this is what I think the main value proposition for the actors in the BSV space is, that you can actually just have a reliable wallet system, authenticated, and an entire backend team, and you're really just piggybacking off of the team that Handcash has. So we have Yvonne and we have Brandon Bryant, who are the Handcash backend engineers, and both of those people could be absolutely backend engineers for any Fortune 500 company,
Right.
realistically, and they're working on Handcash because they see the future. They see what's possible with this, and no one is able to do it. And so yes, Asset Layer builds off of the back end that Handcash provides. Again, you also have Rafa, the CTO for Handcash, who does both back end and front end, and kind of has he has the umbrella for the entire technology department. And Rafa is just an absolute stone cold killer. Like this guy, I mean, like there's no problem that he cannot solve. And that the the biggest thing is like, his willingness to just address a problem head on. He doesn't try to put a band-aid on it. He just like, let's address this head on. What is the problem? Let's solve it. And if you look at there's like, for example, there was a little bug that came up in Handcash today. It was identified and solved within less than 10 minutes, and it was announced, we have a small bug, and then 10 minutes later the bug is fixed. It's like, when you see that kind of responsiveness, it is a huge signal to the basically the emphasis
Right.
that is being placed on this. Because when you're depending on Handcash as being the infrastructure for your payment solution, you can't afford to just say like, okay, well, and Rafa was off today. He's off the today and the rest of this week. So it's like, you can't afford to just like, oh, okay, well, that we'll see what happens when it gets fixed. It gets fixed. It's like, no, this is people's livelihoods depend on this,
Right.
and their brand reputation depends on it. So, yeah, asset layers using that, but what they're building is an entire dashboard for the management and distribution and release of their own assets. So, so this is things like, you could imagine like a DuroDog hat or something like that that has the Britney Bits logo on it, and and then that hat can be used in different games, etc. And so like they're basically building an entire dashboard so that if you want to build the code to implement a lot of these things, let's say you want custom features,
Mhm.
custom integration, etc., then you can do that. If you just want to like use a cookie cutter approach, you can do that. And the key value proposition there is actually it's tapping into the creativity of the marketplace. And that's the unique value proposition of BSV, is that we're moving away from these top-down approaches where, okay, if you want to get into the App Store, then you have to follow all Apple's rules, etc. And you can't be an app if you don't agree to everything that they ask you to agree with. Well, that's a very top-down approach, and it creates this monolithic way for the marketplace to be presenting itself,
Uh-huh.
right? When really what we need is a more dynamic marketplace that is more responsive to the various different interests that people have. Like, for example, my son is very into, Naruto. And he really deeply understands the Naruto culture and community and things like that. Well, it's our ability to take the specialized knowledge that we have and the specialized understanding that we have of the different marketplaces. And some communities only trade with each other. They don't like sending funds back and forth, right? Some communities prefer to do things in this particular way, right? So we allow this specialization of the way that the marketplace is being presented, and that is, I think, the unique thing that is going to um, enable a deeper integration of and a deeper representation of an open economy.
That's awesome. And I'm digging it. I actually had a conversation with Dave Mullimer while we were at the Bitcade event in Miami. And I remember him talking about how like Unbounded Capital and everybody at that time was planning on building a creator tool. But at the time it was just talked about like the way that I perceived the information that I was receiving, whether or not he had the whole picture or whatnot back then. I'm curious if asset layer is what evolved from the original concepts that they had about like creating the creator tool for Duro Dogs. And then of course the other thing is too, I know that like Handcash hasn't been able or hasn't necessarily wanted to interact or deal with NFTs. And so I'm also questioning, are they kind of changing their tune a little bit and wanting to move towards that a little bit? So those would be the two questions I have for you next.
Yeah, so currently, well, the one thing is that Handcash is very, user centric. And I truly think that the user base is basically, how Handcash spreads.
Mm.
Um, it's a grassroots approach that puts the customer first, the user first, and puts their needs first. So we're very like support driven, and we have this excellent support staff member. His name is Jay Suspides, and he's from Miami now. Handcash just opened a Miami office in Brickell, which is where it's the startup capital of the space, and it puts us in the forefront of the movers and shakers in Florida. And yeah, they really want to learn what users want, and if it makes sense, put that forward. But the other thing is, when Handcash does something, that they do it 100%. So they've actually, if you remember back in the day, they took a strong stance against pump and dumping
Yeah.
NFTs, right? And it was clear that for about 9 months or so, there could have been a little bit more revenue generated by jumping on the bandwagon, building some sort of UI feature that allows people to take part and participate in this like JPEG trading craze that swept along. And but they're very long-term thinking, and they're also very they're very sensitive to how it will be reflecting of their product, right? So while yes, it could have gotten them an extra $175,000 or something like that, where they're participating in this by skimming a little from every trade, they're also saying, but do we want that to be how people are thinking about our product? At the end of the day, what is the value of this trading? And yeah, just because we can earn a little bit by enabling it, is that something that we actually want to do? So I give them so much respect and credit for that. But the flip side is that when you are approaching a new market, you want to professionalize your go-to-market strategy. And so when you see something like Asset Layer come along, and when you get a demo of the various different ways that you can use this as a developer to keep track of, maintain, and manage your assets, it's something where, yeah, when you have a professional approach to that product, and also a specialization, right? These are things that that the Asset Layer team really understands from having built the products themselves. And I've gotten the demo. I know that they've thought about every little thing that maybe we wouldn't have been able to come up on our own, because we didn't actually experience the trials and tribulations that would have made those specific choices necessary. So to me, it's like a partnership, a match made in heaven, between the developers and the asset managers themselves. Handcash providing the backend support for the transfers of those tokens, and then Asset Layer as being the one who interfaces with the various different ecosystem members and provides solutions for them based on what their unique needs are.
That is yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, I agree that Handcash did have a very specific approach for it, but it's commendable the way that they were thinking about the consumers at that time as well. And so I it's no dig against them or anything, but it's interesting to see how companies evolve and change over time, as they should. And I had a question a second ago, and it just flew the mind. Sorry. But yeah, so was this born out of the original? Do you know if this was born out of the original idea that Dave Millimer had about like the Duro Dogs creator functionality and that sort of thing? Because I remember him telling me, he's like, "Oh, Brittany, when we finally get this up and going, you're going to be the first to know. I'm going to come on the show. We'll do a live demonstration of it, yada yada yada." And he was like, maybe in like a month or two, I think we'll be good to go. And then a couple of months went by, and he was like, you know what? Some things have changed. It's going to be a little while longer. And then, of course, while longer. And so I guess I'm curious if you know anything about like, was this asset layer born of the original like creator tool functionality that they were thinking about in regards specifically just to Duro dogs, and then they got in there, they started building it out and realized that it could be so much more. Is that what
Yes,
happened?
I think yes and no. Yes, for the reason that you know, this is the extension of that idea, and to give more tools to the creators' hands. And also, what's unique about the product is that it's something where you know, you have your brand, and you know, you might have your base layer of assets that are associated with that brand that, you know, function within your platform. But maybe I come along and I have, you know, like, you know, I'm a designer, maybe I'm a fashion designer, you know, and we see this a lot with brands like Fortnite. You know, you see like, you know, you see like, I forget what one of the most recent fashion brands was that put clothes on these Fortnite characters. But you know, you're seeing the blend between the physical worlds and the digital worlds, and you're seeing the you know, they're essentially, you know, kind of like isolated markets, like people that are, you know, building or that are playing within Fortnite, you know, they're not necessarily the target market for like Prada or something like that, right? Like they're very different markets, but
Right,
at the
right.
same time, you're seeing the emphasis of these companies to say, wow, you know, actually there's a lot of value to being able to kind of infiltrate this massive global market, even though maybe a lot of the demographic of the people who are going to be, you know, gaining under, or, you know, like gaining awareness of our products are going to maybe not necessarily be the right fit for them. You know, like as a parent, like we talked about, you know, you realize how fast in the blink of an
Yeah.
eye your kid is in kindergarten and then your kid is in college. You know what I mean? And so I think yes, for that reason. But the other side of that is that they understood that they needed something more than just, you know, a platform management tool for, you know, a single use, right? They
Mm.
needed to build a broader dashboard that is going to be, you know, it might not even use some of the same underlying technology as the majority of the assets that are being, you know, populated. Maybe they're using it strictly for managing their tools, but they're building some sort of inner, you know, relay layer or inner layer that you know, displays or populates those assets in a different way than is being considered. So basically, yeah, you have to have it be you know, as complete as possible of a package, so that again, the no code tool people can come in and they can just say, yes, I want to build tokens for this specific use case that is already, you know, like in action, like Duro Dogs. Or you could say, you know what, like I want, you know, my product looks totally different than that, but I still need an asset management tool. And I think that took a lot of like careful planning, and maybe that what contributed to some of the setbacks or the time delays for some of that. But now that it's been launched, I know it's in private beta right now, so I'd love to come back on the show with Dave and do a demo for you. But it's phenomenal. It looks incredible.
Oh man, I'm excited. I would absolutely love to have you and Dave on at the same time and to see it in use. It also makes me curious because I know that like Hank Cash has been hard at work with implementing the USD, and so I'm like, gosh, how big has the team gotten now? If because I know I think Brandon and I know probably at least Rafa were working on getting that, you know, going. I'm only assuming here, but yeah, it seems like the team is getting really big now to help get all of these things, you know, implemented and whatnot. And I'm
Well,
curious, like, how well is the USD thing working right now?
yeah, and it's coming along really nicely. We're in testing right now. I believe that you know, it's been pushed to prod, so we have it actually as you know, code that is operational, but it's just not enabled through, you know, a front, you know, the UX at this moment. We're still just internally testing it. But yeah, one of the things that I loved even before I joined Handcash, and I never thought of it this way, was Alex Agut. He ended up they were talking about Facebook's Libra, which was their
Mm.
like efforts at making a digital payment system, and he it was all about like the years of planning that took, and like the millions and millions and maybe billions of dollars. I'm not even sure at this point
Wow.
that took, and Alex made this. He's the best at being just so concise, so like, and he was like, "Yeah, congratulations, Facebook. This is what myself and a team of 3 people solved. Within like 4 months or something like that."
Oh,
And it was
Alex.
like, yeah, it was like you don't even you don't take the time to actually think about that, but like Handcash built the solution that everyone is going after, and they did it with a very small team. So it just goes to show you what the power of a motivated individual. In fact, like I was saying, I can't say enough about Yvonne and Brandon Bryant, who are on back end engineers, and like I said, could be working for any Fortune 500 company. But Yvonne, in one of our private, we do these like marathon session calls with Handcash sometimes, where we all just sort of like, we're like a family, like everyone just comes to the dinner table. We all say what we're feeling and what we're thinking, and then we like, and we all discuss it, and then we kind of go off into our rooms and we work on it.
Right.
Yvonne made this really great point. He's like, and again, it was in reference to Alex, but he just said, like that you really make it very easy to come to work and put a lot of my personal time and effort into this, because it's basically, he said, it's very easy to get motivated to do this kind of work. And I had to give him credit for putting it so eloquently, because when you're looking at solving the problems of the payment layer, it's something where you really want to make sure that your heart is in it, and that you're focused on it, because as I like to say, payments touch every aspect and component of our lives. So like, if that is amiss, then you have just problems. And so when we're looking at the state of the world as it is, and we're looking at the inflation at 10%, and we're looking at overreach of data and privacy, and like you can be having, my daughter was having a conversation about like what was she talking, some sort of toy or something like that, and next thing you know, on her iPad, it's showing her an advertisement for the toy that she was just talking about,
Yep.
and it's like, like we're at this tipping point in our collective understanding of how we want to proceed as a society, and it's important that we get it right, and
Yeah.
it's important that many people's perspectives are included in what that looks like.
Right. And so with the it's kind of been a little doom and gloom in the BSB community lately. So if you had a message to kind of uplift everybody's spirits right now, what would be that thing? Should they be just bullish on the things going on with like hand cash and gorilla pull and cur and all of those things, and just be focusing towards the future and trying to drown out the negativity? Or what would be the specific message that you give people to kind of reinvigorate the same enthusiasm? Because I see people that are working in projects, they still have that enthusiasm for BSV. It's still there. It's like, yes, this is still the greatest technology in the world, and we have to make sure that it succeeds. But people kind of like, not so involved into the projects and whatnot, they're seeing this and they're hearing all this doom and gloom, and it's become a downsetter. So what would be the message that you give to people to help lift those spirits and reinvigorate people's enthusiasm for Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I think of it is like, imagine we go back in time to the very beginning of creation, right? Like the earliest days of the earth existing, where basically barely any life forms even exist, mostly all of them probably in the water. Like the most complex system of existence of a organism is maybe like a piece of plankton or something like that. And you go, okay, like, all right, well, in maybe 7 billion years or something like that, we're going to get to a point where basically Bitcoin will be created, and we'll be able to actually implement and engineer a model for us to engage with each other more authentically. And okay, so a lot of things have to go right along that path, right? Like, and if you think about it like that, I sometimes tell people, if they find themselves sort of feeling down a little bit about the state of things around them, just remember that you come from an unbroken lineage of survival that goes back literally billions of years. So if at any point any one of your ancestors ever failed to reproduce, I'm even talking about all the way back to just the microcellular level, you wouldn't be here. So you're standing on the shoulders of giants. You've never not succeeded at what you've set out to do. And we are so close. Like, if you look at it on that long time scale, as far as like having basically just plankton in the ocean to having Bitcoin, yes, is Bitcoin, a household name? Is BSB a household name today? No, it's not necessarily a household name, but we're so close when you think about it on that long time scale, and what does that mean? Does that mean that it's going to take another 6 months? Does it mean it's going to take another 6 years? Who knows? We will do better to be of better service to each other and to the Bitcoin cause if we can forget about what success looks like and what we want it to be, and let's just go out there and do it, and there's a quote that I really loved when I was growing up that was like, nobody it's impossible to live a great life, or something like that, or nobody sets out to live a great life. We just go out and we live our life, and we let history be the judge, and so that's what I think. Let's go out there and is there challenges that we're needing to rise and overcome? Yes, we need each other for those, though. Like, when we're feeling low, reach out to someone and let them know, like, we're a resource for each other, we're a community. And so take advantage of that. Let people know, hey, I'm feeling really low right now. In fact, I heard that when I was in Miami, there were some people that were saying, morale is down. And it's like, you don't want to sugarcoat that. You don't want to
Right.
pretend like everything's honky dory, right? But at the same time, you want to remember that, we're trying to build the technology layer that is going to create the next 150 to 450 years of economic activity, and yeah, we're going to face challenges along the way, but keep your head up, keep your heart in it, and connect with other people, during the lulls, because you'll find that in the dark moments of quiet, of solitude and silence, and of that camaraderie and friendship, that the heart finds its morning and is refreshed.
It's really eloquently put, Brett, and I like the message. I dig it a lot. Well, normally in the show, this is about where I'd ask, do you have any final thoughts or closing statements or remarks? But I kind of like what you just said, and I kind of feel like that's a good place to start wrapping it up. But then I also thought, man, I know you were just out in Miami not that long ago, hanging out with Kurt and everybody for the opening of the Bitcoin Citadel. Is that right? Like,
Yep.
were you? Yeah. So before we wrap things up, I'm curious, how did the opening go? And kind of how was everybody feeling towards that?
Yeah. So the when you walked into the BSV Citadel, you could just feel the energy,
Yeah.
like you could feel the hairs on your arms start to stand up a little bit, and you can see what's being built down there. And again, this is it's coming with action, right? It's not just, hey, like, it would be great if someone solved all of our problems and our needs, right? Like, we can always sit there and think that, but it's like, no, let's put the wheels in motion. That's one thing that I give Kurt a lot of credit for. He's not waiting on the sidelines. He always talks about how this is a business opportunity, so get out there and do the business. Yeah, the BSV Citadel is a co-working space, but the one thing that I love about it too is that we tend to sort of get like it's not just BSV but all throughout the ecosystem very insular, so we tend to commune with people who tend to agree with a lot of our own ideas, etc. And that's great, but at the same time, there's a lot of value in the ability to cross pollinate. So and BSV represents a real solution to a lot of these blockchain needs, and a lot of them, unfortunately, they're getting more funding right now, so where they're you're coming up with an app or an idea that is being built on Solana, and you have the ability to just find that funding a little bit easier, and so, but at the same time, that network keeps falling down, whereas BSV continues to truck on. And even if they're especially with recently there was a couple hiccups in the BSV ecosystem, but it's those are the that's the privilege that we earn. We earn those hiccups by working to get to a degree of actual scalability that we can actually provide the infrastructure that is going to enable it to proceed. Just like if you were building an airplane, you don't build an airplane and the first airplane that you build, just like, well, there you go, see you over there in England.
Right.
Like you test it out a little bit and see, okay, well, we got up off the ground, now let's try to get up off the ground and over that hill. And so we have that privilege. So, the BSV Citadel in Florida, there's Zach from VX Technologies is down there. Luke is down there with Jungle Bus, building open infrastructure. That's another person that I would steer you towards in terms of app development. And Kurt, Handcash is down in Brickell now. There's just an influx of BSV focused and solutions oriented people that are down there, and let's replicate it. The other thing is the Block Dojo. They're coming down to Florida now, and the Block Dojo have massive goals in terms of what's coming up next. I don't know if you know Callus. Do you know Callus Osman?
I don't know Callus Osman, but I do know the Block Dojo.
Okay, well, she is 100% like a gem of a person to bring into your show. She's the managing director, I believe, for the Block Dojo, so would be the best person to talk about what their plans are, etc. But yeah, they're going to be coming down to Florida, and we want to replicate this. It's not just Florida, but yeah, do you have an idea where we could grow another BSV Citadel? Then reach out to me. Come to the BSV Discord. I'm manifestable. I'm manifestable on Twitter, and I will work as hard as I can to put you in touch with the right people to bring your ideas to fruition.
That's great, Brent. That's great. Well, did you have anything else you wanted to add before we go ahead and wrap things up?
Well, thank you very much for having me on the show. I truly love your show. I think you are doing such a wonderful thing for this space. You give these great interviews. They're so personable, and you have this ability to bring the best out of the people that you're in communication with. I think it comes from you just being really, really interested in the subject matter, as opposed to just like doing it because it's like your day job or something like that. And it leads to these wonderful, magical moments. So I want to wish you a lot of success.
Wow, I really appreciate that. It's a lot of praise, Brent, especially coming from you. As somebody that I look up to in the space, I'd like to hope people, connect in the future and be like, hey, you know what? I interviewed that guy, and he's the perfect guy that I can put you in touch with. And so, in a much, much smaller, less grandiose way of yourself, sir, I try to do the same thing, just not as successful at it as you.
Well, absolutely. And you had Craig Schumacher on the show, which is one of my favorite comedians of all time.
Really?
And yeah, and he was, I think, from the Philadelphia area. I mean, I was watching his comedy. You know, when I was growing up, I still use his jokes all the time because, you know, Philly,
He
they
just
use
texted
breakfast meat
me.
called scrapple. Yeah, tell him, you know, Scrapple's got the word crap sitting in the middle, and he'll never, you know, he never eats anything with the word crap sitting in the middle. That's one of his jokes. It's got to be like a 30-year-old joke, you know, that I still use to this day. So yeah.
That's freaking great. Like, I actually haven't talked to Craig like in probably 2 months now, and you just literally brought up Craig, and like, I kid you not, like 13 minutes ago he texted me.
He's the best. He's the best. He's a legend. Like, when you told me you were interviewing him, I was like, the Craig Schumacher? Are you talking about? Like, there's got to be some sort of mix up here. There must be two people with the same name,
Well, you know
because
what?
he's a legend.
You know what? I've actually been trying to help Craig out for the past gosh, like 6 months now, because he's been working with I don't know if you actually saw the Craig Shoemaker interview, but he's been working with Dave, forget his last name, but he's the creator of Ren and Stimpy and
Yeah.
Cow and Chicken.
Yeah, I remember. Yep.
And they're trying to do this Bitcoin cartoon. And I kept the whole time that I'm sitting here, and he's all like, oh, we got to get this going, you know, this, that, and the other thing. I'm sitting here thinking, man, this would be a great opportunity for Bitcoin, because, you know, Craig, he's a funny guy, but you can also lead him into the right direction. So right now, his understanding of like Bitcoin and Ethereum are very kind of limited. God bless him. But you know, I've been trying over the last few months to kind of tell him everything that's been going on, and what the true Bitcoin is now. And so kind of even gives his story, or the story that he's wanting to tell with this new chicken cartoon that he's trying to get out there, and the NFTs and the games, and everything else that he's trying to do, you know, an even more realistic perspective, because it's hard to give a villain to what people consider BTC until you start realizing, you know, the Visa, MasterCard, and Blockstream kind of crap that all goes behind it. So now there's actually kind of like a villain in there that you could add and tell the true story of Bitcoin. But the problem is, you know, I've been like, oh, do I take this to like a traditional market and just like let it free and kind of just, you know, or bring it to somebody like you and say, hey, you know, I've got the opportunity to work with Craig, and this is what he's trying to do. Do you want to try to get something going here with him?
Yeah, I would love that. I mean, I think that he's the exact type of person that would be perfect to bring to Asset Layer, you know, because you know, he has the experience to, you know, to build things that, you know, are engaging with you know, the Ren and Stimpy stuff, and you know, he just needs a mechanism to actually get that out into, you know, engage with the community. So so yeah, let's book a call with him.
I would love it. I'm sure he would love it. And yeah, let's make it happen. Let's make it happen soon.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, Brett. Well, with that being said, everybody, Brett, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your wealth of knowledge with me. I'm super stoked on Handcash and what's to come with Asset Layer and more. Hopefully you and Dave can find the time to come on the show again here soon. But again, with that being said, guys, go ahead and smash up the likes and subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin wallet, blockchain, stablecoins, MetaNet, the evolution of money. Everybody is talking about Bitcoin today, but what exactly is it? Learn the basics from experts. Learn what Bitcoin is, how it works, and why it matters. Bitcoin 101, your ultimate guide to the fundamentals of blockchain.
Thank you for watching. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment below. Share this video with a friend, and also follow us on Twitter at BrittanyBits.